We'll start in 2 3 minutes. Okay, let's start the class. This is the week TS session of week 4 of Design of Steel Structures taught by Professor Damodar Maiti. I am Trisha Chakraborty, one of the course teaching assistants. I am a PhD student at the Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore. And today's topic is mainly going to be weld design because we have looked at bolt design in the previous class, and connection design as a overall is a very important topic. I'll start with a brief recap. There are two broad branches of structural engineering, as we have discussed: analysis and design. Analysis is the forward problem, where we are given the structural dimensions, boundary conditions, and applied loads, and we have to find the response. So, everything about the structure we already know. We want to find the response induced by those applied forces, keeping in with the boundary conditions. Force response is basically of two types: forces or stresses, and strains or deflections. And generally, the forces are relate to the collapse or ultimate limit states, and the deflection or strains relate to the serviceability limit states. And design is the inverse problem. Analysis and design are not the opposite of each other. Analysis and design generally goes hand by hand. So in design, we are given loads to be withstood by the structure and some criteria on maximum deflection, etc. And we have to find the optimum size of structural elements. Now for design, we are given the overall loads to be withstood by the structure. So we have the wind load or the dead load, but then we have to assume a structural dimension, structural material, structural arrangement, and then we have to carry out an analysis to see what is the response being induced. Then we have to carry out a check that the response induced, is the structure strong enough to withstand that. Then we can go ahead with the assumed design. Otherwise, we have to redesign, like again propose a different, a larger size or a stronger material, or both. And then we have to again carry out an analysis and see the check all the limitations are satisfied. Only then we can let the design go forward. So analysis and design are two branches, but they are not the opposite. They go hand in hand. Steel versus concrete, since this is a steel design class, and we know that you would have already had a concrete design class. Why would we use steel when concrete is the most versatile material for construction? It is cheap, and it can be cast into any shape. But steel is much stronger than conventional concrete. Compression, steel is stronger, and in tension, steel is of course stronger, because concrete has virtually no strength in tension at all. Steel has high strength to weight ratio because steel's density, like its weight is less. It's uh, for the same amount of steel, same amount of concrete, the weight of steel will be less. Ductile compared to concrete, so the area under the stress strain curve is very large in steel. In concrete, concrete generally undergoes brittle failure. So the stress strain curve initially increases steeply with the Young's modulus as the slope. Then once the yield stress is crossed, concrete fails. The ultimate stress comes almost immediately afterwards. So if a concrete structure fails, if a concrete material fails, it fails immediately without any warning. While a ductile material like steel, after the yield stress is reached, it starts yielding. Yielding means that the strain will increase without correspondingly large increase in stress, but so the slope will be reduced. The stress strain curve will be reduced, but it will still go up to a larger extent. It will still go up to a longer extent till it actually fails. So steel failure gives ductile failure gives warning time, which can be invaluable in case a structure is about to collapse. Of like even a 5-10 minutes of warning time might make a difference between a lot of lives. And steel is however much costlier than concrete, so that's why we cannot use, despite these advantages, we do not use steel in all kind of structures. In fact, we use steel in more specific and high demanding structures, while most of the institutional and residential buildings we see around us are generally made of reinforced concrete. Reinforced, of course, there is nothing called just a concrete building, since concrete is has zero strength and tension, not exactly zero, but almost zero strength and tension. We have to reinforce concrete with steel anyway, but generally RCC structures are what we see around us the most. And some special structures like very tall buildings, some bridges, some factory sheds are made of steel. Why do we need design? Since this is a course on structural steel design, the components individually and the entire structure should withstand the load throughout its lifespan, satisfying serviceability criteria. So, withstanding the load is the ultimate limit states, and this is the serviceability limit states. To properly design a structure, we have to ensure it is economical to construct without compromising safety, which would lead to a cost-effective design. So, both of them are very important. Safety is apparently more important because civil engineers, like safety is actually safe. actually human lives. For us, safety is a very serious thing. But economy has also to be. We cannot just discard the economical factor, and we cannot make a structure infinitely safe. Then it will become extremely expensive. If it is like there are so many stakeholders in a building process. Engineers are not the only ones included. If involved, if only architects, if it was only up to architects and engineers, we would propose large sections, very large sections, very high quality material, and for that would mean the structure will be extremely safe, and then we would never get into trouble. But there has to be a compromise, because if the structure is very expensive, it won't serve its purpose. So there is always a compromise that has to be made. But we don't have to take, as engineers, we don't exactly have to take this decision, because the design codes, generally we just follow the design codes and design. But the design codes, through its factors of safety and all that, have an inherent safety level, which we don't see in the codes explicitly, but there is an inherent safety being incorporated through the safety factors. Mechanical properties of steel. Physical properties of structural steel as detailed by this clause of IS 800 2007, which is the Indian Standard Code for Steel Design. Irrespective of its grade, may be taken as fixed at these five values are fixed: the density, the Young's modulus, Poisson's ratio, the bulk modulus or modulus of rigidity, and the coefficient of thermal expansion. So these five are considered mostly constant, whatever the grade of steel be. But these factors we generally don't directly need in design in most common designs. But the principal mechanical properties of structural steel which we do need in design are yield stress Fy and ultimate stress Fu, and these they clearly depend on the grade of steel. The grade of steel is actually has to do with the stress strain curve, so the yield stress and the ultimate stress are very important. This is the stress strain curve. This first part, the origin to A, is the linear elastic part which follows Hooke's law, and the slope is the Young's modulus. A to B is a very small region. It is a region where it is elastic, but it is not linear. Elastic means that if up to B, if I load the structure and then I remove the load, the structure will regain its original configuration. So the strain will go down to zero. So if I'm increasing the load by this path, and when I unload, it will return by this path and come back to the origin. But beyond B, the elastic limit has been crossed. So B to C or D, C and D are really very close by that. It's of course a nonlinear region, and also if we have crossed B, even if we remove the load entirely, the load stress and curve won't retrace this path, and there will be some permanent deformation, some permanent deformation or permanent stress set when the load is removed beyond B. Then C and D are the upper yield point and lower yield points, the points after which the strain will increase without correspondingly large increase in stress. So you can see that the slope has fallen very sharply. So all curves might not look so nice and perfect, but there will come a point where the slope abruptly falls. That is the point when we can say that the structure has yielded. So C and D are almost close by. It is the yielding point, and the stress corresponding to C is the Fy, the yield stress. Is someone unmuted? Uh, Taposh, can you please mute your mic? Okay. And then there is, but after yielding, there is still the material has still not given way completely, though it is flowing faster than it was earlier, much faster. The stress still it can still take more stress. Up to E, the stress will increase with increasing strain, and at E there will be the ultimate point where after that the stress won't increase anymore. So the stress corresponding to E is the ultimate stress. So this Fy is here and the Fu is somewhere here. After E, the material has completely given way, so it strain increases and its stress capacity also increases, and sorry, decreases, and then it fills, it fractures. So F is the fracture point. So these are the Fi and Fu that we need. And then steel, as we have already discussed, that steel cannot is generally not cast in whatever size whatever shape we want. We generally the hot roll steel sections are brought directly from the industry. The Bureau of Indian Standards (BIS) published handbook number 1 that tabulates the weight per unit length, the geometric dimensions, and the other dimensions for various types of steel sections. So this is a flange or joist I section with two flanges, one web, and this is a channel section with two flanges are one web but arranged in a different way. So all these dimensions is tf, b, tw, d, b. All of these factors will, all of these numbers are listed corresponding to all the sections are given a certain name like ISMB 200, and then all these dimensions are tabulated. Then other properties like the moment of inertia in both direction, the plastic modulus, the all the unit weight per unit length, and all of that is also like mentioned in the table. The whole handbook is SP6 is like every page is made of so many sections are listed, and these are the types of sections. This is an angle, this is a T section, these are hollow sections, square, rectangle, circle, then some solid sections like bars, flats, and plates. So these are generally the sections that we will use for design. So when we are designing for a beam, a steel beam, we are going to assume a certain section, and then we are going to carry out the checks of all the limit states. Let's see. Yes, these bending, local buckling, shear buckling, web crushing and buckling, lateral torsional buckling. These are the modes of failure in steel sections. The ultimate limit state related to the ultimate or collapse limit states. So if I am designing a beam, buckling is also like in steel it is very relevant because slender sections which have a high like where the cross section is very small compared to the length, so that's a ratio. Slender, if the slenderness ratio is high, structure has chance of buckling. It does not happen in concrete since the cross sectional areas are quite high, quite much higher than that of steel sections. So bending and shear we have already encountered in RCC buildings, RCC elements as well, and the concepts are same here. But the buckling or the four types of buckling are additional here. So anyway, if we have to design a beam or a column, I'm going to assume a particular section, maybe a single section, or there are also built-up sections like an I section with two plates on its flanges or two plates on the web, and so on. And we will carry out all these checks like all the limit states. Is the bending limit set satisfied? Is the local buckling limit set satisfied? Then we have to carry out all these checks, and if all the checks all of these are safe, like the capacity is greater than demand, then I can say that okay, I can accept this section, and my design is, I will fix my design at the section that I've assumed. And deflection is related to the serviceability limit state. It is given lesser importance than the collapse limit states because collapse limit state has very large consequences, but deflection is also a criteria that we have to keep in mind. Design philosophy is the working stress method and the limit state method. Indian design and mostly designs everywhere around the world started with the working stress method. It is very easy to apply, but the limit state method exploits or maps the behavior of the structure better, since it does not assume that if the structure, when the yield point is reached, the structure has completely failed. It actually allows the structure to go up to its ultimate limit state, ultimate strength. Though there are factors of safety, but it it is generally more accurate to how the structure actually behaves, how the material. So this limit state of method of design considers all relevant conditions pertaining to limit states of strength and serviceability. The strength limit states are based on load carrying capacity of the structure, which includes buckling, fatigue, fracture. Serviceability limit states are based on performance of the structure, like deflection is the most important, vibration, corrosion, bonding, etc. The loads at working conditions are factored by the use of partial safety factors for loads resulting in factored loads or design load. This is a multiplicative factor of safety, and the normal strength of the material is called the ultimate capacity, and the corresponding design strength is obtained by dividing the ultimate capacity with a partial safety factor. So this is a divisive safety factor. So the member has to be designed to meet the basic criteria or the limit state, which is design action should be less than equal to design strength, and there is one limit state corresponding to each mode of failure. That's why we studied these modes of failure here. So all the modes of failure will have correspondingly one limit state associated with it, and all the limit states of a particular section has to be satisfied for us to confirm that the design will be safe. Connections. Connections are an integral part of any steel structure that have a major role in overall integrity, because in unlike concrete which is cast at the site, in steel the various sections or various components are got from the industry, and then they are assembled at the site. So the assembly part is done using connections, bolts, rivets, or welds. Rivets are not in use these days, so bolts and welds are the major ones, and they are so important because the because they are like the entire structural integrity. Even if the beam has enough, even if the beam is sufficiently designed and the column is sufficiently designed, if the connection, but we are generally assuming that the beam and column has a fixity. The beam column junction is fixed, is a fixed joint, right? So if the connection does not provide enough fixity, then then the moment will become released here, and the structure will behave in a different manner. Like this, if this becomes a pin joint instead of a fixed joint, but while in our design we have considered it to be fixed, it will the structure will behave in a different manner than we have expected, and it has a high chance of failing. So it starts a failure in a, like the failure in steel structures very often starts at the connections. After the connections, it will become a progressive failure will follow, and the entire structure might collapse. But the connection is very important. Standard parts are properly connected to create the steel structures. Connections make up a large amount of the cost of structural steel as well. So connection design should be given top priority for both safety and structural economy. Bolts and welds are the two types of connections used today. This is a bolt. It has a head and a shank, and then these two are called washers. They are at the place at the interface of the bolt head and the plate, or whatever section we are using. So, and this is the nut. The nut is tightened, and in the around the shank. So it's like the more it is tightened, the bolt itself undergoes a kind of compression, and it creates a sticking kind of load between the two plates. So it also, there's a type of bolt called friction bolts, which work basically. The job of the bolt is to stick the two plates together so firmly that there is a normal reaction between the two plates. And we know that friction is the coefficient of frictional force is equal to coefficient of friction into the normal reaction. So if the bolt provides a sufficient normal reaction between the two plates, there will be a frictional force. So if you try to pull apart the plates, that friction is the one that is going to resist it. That is friction type bolt. There is another type bolt which bears it, which transfers the load using shearing and bearing, which we have looked at in the last class. And weld is the other type of connection, or very commonly used. Welding is basically a, like, metal is molten, generally the parent material of the plate itself. That molten metal is placed along the junction of the connection, and where I want to connect it, and then it's allowed to solidify, so it creates a binding effect. Welded connections. Welding is a procedure of joining two metal portions in the molten state with or without pressure. Electric arc welding is commonly used, which we see, which if all of us have seen in construction sites in India. The part of the metal to be welded is melted by using electric arc or oxyacetylene flame along with a weld rod. So the sparks, we see that golden sparks during in construction site. That is welding going on. Arc heat will melt both the metal part and the rod at the same time, and fusion happens as welding rod metal flows across the arc. Welding rod may be used shielded or unshielded. In the shielded types, this is a just a for some general knowledge. You won't actually need this. Electrode will be coated with mineral compounds, producing a gaseous shield, which helps to avoid oxygen and thus stabilizing the arc. Advantages of welded joints is the joint efficiency is 100%. So in bolt, basically bolt, the tightening of the bolt is an important factor in determining whether the bolt is going to function or not. But in weld, if you have managed to make a weld, the joint efficiency is 100%. Bolt efficiency is not 100% most of the times. Fabrication in difficult structure is easy. Pure silence prevails during the process. Even though small sound is heard during oxyacetylene welding compared to riveting. Rivets and bolts is like a it's a messy kind of process. Welding process is faster. Welding process is economical, and this method always provides rigid joints and minimum self weight for structure because it's just a bit of molten metal. Whereas bolts or rivets are actually solid sections, so they add more self weight to the structure. But there are also disadvantages, since firstly we need skilled labor, because bolting can be done by unskilled labor as well, but welding has to be done by skilled labor. Since welding is a hot process involving in non-uniform heating and cooling, structural members will be subjected to distortion resulting in unwanted stresses. So we have seen earlier that the coefficient of thermal expansion of steel is called alpha is 12 into 10 to the power minus 6 per degree centigrade. That is actually a significant value. So welding might cause some thermal induced stresses in the structure. Welded structures are subjected to cracks due to non-provision of expansion and contraction. Very high labor costs since skilled labor is required. Checking and verification of welding work is very difficult again, because bolts or rivets are actual solid sections, so they have a fixed diameter, they have a fixed strength, or we can actually check it properly. But welding is, it's a mold. Once it has melted and it has been like lined along the along the joint, the shape is not uniform. It is not easy to verify, and it is also not easy during repair work. During bolted connections, if you want to repair something, if you want that part, you can just replace the bolt, but welding is not easy to replace either. Structure may be subjected to fatigue and susceptible to failure by cracking under repeated cyclic loads. Tearing of base plate metal may occur beneath the weld, known as laminar tearing. These are mostly general knowledge. You don't really need this. Okay, there are two types: butt weld and fillet weld. Butt weld, the two plates are placed end to end, and the weld material is placed in the middle. While for fillet welds, the plates are spaced perpendicular to each other, and the weld is done is disjunction. So this is the fusion line here. This is the fusion line. This is the weld metal. Design strength of butt weld. The design strength of butt weld, either in tension or compression, is governed by the smaller of the yield strength of the weld or the parent metal. So Fy here, because the generally you're probably going to see that the weld material and the parent metal are made of the same grade of steel, but just suppose it's different, then we have to take the smaller of the yield strength of the weld and the parent material, and that is has to be put in this formula. Then Lw is the effective length on the weld in millimeter. Te is the effective throat thickness. We'll see what that means. And gamma mw is the partial safety factor for weld. This is an important thing. 1.25 for shop welding and 1.5 for site or field welding. So why are they different? So what does a safety factor actually do? The purpose of safety factor is to account for uncertainties. Uncertainties means that I am expecting that this steel has a grade of 250 MPa, but maybe the strength somehow there was some error in the manufacture process, and the yield strength is actually 230 MPa. So I am putting a factor of safety in the denominator so that it doesn't actually go up to 250 MPa, and the small uncertainties can be accounted for. So, and it is very intuitively clear that the more control the environment is, the better is the quality control. So it will be like, in a very controlled environment, 250 MPa grade of steel will have 250 MPa strength, but if it is done in a less controlled environment, it might differ. So shop welding is assumed that we have more control over the process in the shop than in the site. So in shop welding, we put a smaller factor of safety. We assume that it is more accurate anyway, so 1.25 will suffice. While for site welding, we put a pretty high factor of safety. 1.5 is a very high factor of safety for materials. Generally, the strength, the capacity terms have lesser factor of safety, and the loads are multiplied by 1.5, 1.2, that kind of factor of safety. So this is the formula: TDW, the design strength of bulk weld, is Fy LWTE divided by gamma MW, and the design strength of fillet weld. Oh, sorry, this will be butt weld, but butt weld in this is design strength of butt weld in tension or compression, and this is in shear. This is gamma YW1. YW1 is for smaller of shear yield strength of weld and parent material. Have to divide both these yield strengths by root 3. Gamma MW is the partial safety factor, and these are the same. These are like similar. It's just that gamma, this term becomes divided by root 3. Design of butt weld. For step 1 is for the case of complete penetration of butt weld. There is no need to have design calculations, as strength of weld at the joint is equal to the strength of the member connected. For the case of partial penetration of butt weld, the effective throat thickness is computed as described, and the required effective length is determined in order to have strength of weld equal to the strength of member connected, and the design strength of butt weld is computed as per these equations. So let's look at an example here before we go move on to fillet welds. Are there any questions so far? Okay. Two plates of thickness 16 mm and 14 mm are required to be joined by a butt weld. It's also called a groove weld. The plates are subjected to factor tensile force 400 kilonewton. The effective weld length is limited to 180 mm. Check whether the joint is safe in following cases. And Fy is assumed to be this 250 MPa. Single V butt weld and double V butt weld. So for single V, for the case of single V, complete penetration of weld cannot be ensured, and thus incomplete penetration of weld takes place. So we take the effective throat thickness as 5 by 8 into thickness of thinner member. This provision is given in IS 800. 2007. So TE is 5 by 8 into 14 because 16 is a larger blade, but you can see that the welt cannot be larger than 14 firstly, and in case of incomplete penetration we factor it with 5 by 8, so 8.75. For shop weld, partial factor of safety is 1.25, and the effective length of weld is maximum is to be 180 mm. So since we have to see whether the joint is safe or not, we are going to assume that the entire length is being utilized. So the strength of weld is LWTE by this. So we get 315, which is less than 400. So this is not adequate. If the strength of the weld is less than the uh, factor tensile force, it means that it is not adequate because the limit state has to be capacity has to be greater than the demand. And double V butt weld, when that happens, complete penetration is happening. So we have to take the dimension of the thinner plate. The thicker plate, the dimension can never be greater than 14 because the thinner plate is the ultimate limit. So strength of weld here is 180 into 14 into 250 by 1.25, which is 500. So this is greater than 400. So one second. Hello মা, আমি ক্লাস নিচ্ছি, তোমাকে পরে ফোন করছি। ঠিক আছে, টাটা টাটা। So the strength of weld is greater than the factor tensile force, and this double V butt weld in this case is going to be enough. I think. Okay, this is a fillet weld. So let's look at the theory of fillet weld. Okay, I think this is a fillet weld only. So but the butt weld works in tension or compression, and fillet weld works in shear. So this was the fillet weld. Sorry, I'm sorry for the wrong information. The design stress in fillet weld is given by FWN by gamma MW. So the gamma MW remains same, 1.25 for shop welding and 1.5 for site or field welding, and FWN is nominal strength of fillet weld divided by root 3. The design strength of fillet weld is a function of throat area as given by LW is the effective length, TL is the throat thickness. LW and TL, you can understand that the larger the length or larger the throat thickness, the strength will increase. So they are all multiplicative. Fu is the lesser of the ultimate strength of weld or the parent material, and we have to divide it by root 3, and the factor of safety is put in the denominator. So the design steps are: a fillet weld may be subjected to any general types of stress, axial or direct stress, fractional stress, and shear stress, but the design of fillet weld is governed by shear stress, since a fillet weld always gets failed in shear. So let's see. So this is placed in such a manner that if these two plates are going to fail, the weld is always going to undergo shear like this or this, while the butt weld, if it tears apart, it undergoes a tensile kind of failure, while this will undergo shear failure. So the size of the fillet weld S is assumed beforehand based on thickness of the materials to be joined. An equal legged fillet weld gets failed by an angle of 45 degrees through the throat. The strength of the weld is computed from this equation. Force to be transmitted by the joint is either known or is estimated. The effective length of the weld is worked out by dividing the factored force by the strength of the weld per unit length. The resulting, see here, if we don't multiply it by the effective length, if we do, if this is my unknown, then I can get the by this part I can get the strength of the weld per unit length, and multiplying it by the effective length we'll get the total uh, total strength. So if I want to find out the length, what is the length I require for a particular load to be withstood, then what am I going to do? I'm going to take the load and I'm going to divide it by its strength per unit length to get the required length. The resulting weld length is adjusted either by providing longitudinal fillet welds or transverse fillet weld in combination with longitudinal fillet weld. It is assumed that both welds are stressed equally. If required, the length of If required length of weld exceeds 150 TL, then the design capacity of the weld is reduced by the factor beta. What is this here? Okay, I think that's it's there in IS 800. I'll see if it's there in any of the examples. If only longitudinal fillet weld is provided, the length of each longitudinal fillet weld must be more than the perpendicular distance between them. At each end of the longitudinal fillet weld, end returns of length 2s are provided. S is the size of the fillet weld. So this a channel section is required to be welded by a 10 thick gusset plate. The channel is required to carry a factor tensile load of 750 kilonewton. The overlap of channel section on gusset plate is limited to 280 Welding is to be done at site. We are using Fe 410 steel. So 410 is the ultimate strength of this Fe 400, and 250 is the yield strength. And we have to design the weld. The channel section uses ISMC 250. Okay, let me see if I have the 1 second. I think I would have the code somewhere. No, I don't have it. ISMC 250 is a section mentioned in FP6. All its properties are mentioned. So these properties we will find are directly taken from SP6. Okay, so the cross sectional area is 3867 millimeter square. The overall depth is 250. This 250 is because of that. Generally, the dimension that is mentioned along with the section type, ISMB 200 generally has depth 200. So this is 250, but don't take it for granted. If you are given a section, you will be provided these quantities, or you have to directly check from the SP6. Width of flange is 80 thickness of flange is 14.1 and thickness of web is 7.1 Channel is a C section. Partial safety factor of safety of material for site welding is 1.5. It's given somewhere site welding. Welding is to be done at site, so we are taking 1.5. Otherwise, if nothing is mentioned, we generally take 1.25, unless it's mentioned specifically that it is being done at the site. So let us provide the size of well 5 So this is why design is an iterative process. When we are designing, when we are just given the basic information and we are asked to design something, we have to start with an assumption. So we are assuming that let us provide the size of well to be 5 Effective throat thickness is KS 0.725. This is given in IS 800. The design strength of weld is given by this formula LW T is this TTFU divided by root 3 gamma MW. So this is I'm doing the per like the unit length thing. So I'm putting 1 here, 1 then into 3.5. This is the effective throat thickness. 410 is the ultimate stress. But divided by root 3 into 1.5, so we get 552 Newton per millimeter. See, this is this quantity. This quantity is in Newton, but since I'm putting LW as 1, I'm getting my strength as Newton per millimeter, so Newton per unit length. Thus, for a factor tensile load of 750, the length of weld required is 750 this kilonewton, so into 100 by 552. So now I get the length. I need 1357 millimeter, but the overlap is limited on the gusset. So this this is the gusset plate. So the maximum welding length I can provide is 250 plus 280 plus 280. You can see that this is the maximum length of the weld I can provide. So this is 810. This is not enough. Like I need 1300 millimeters of welding length, but I only have 810. So what I have to do, I have to increase the size of the weld and check again. Okay, so here there is slot welding is provided. There is a shortage of weld. One option is I could increase the size of weld. I could take 7 say and then carry out a check again. Otherwise, there is one option to be done, which is if the weld length falls short, it has fallen short by 550 then we provide a slot welding. Like here we cut the section a bit and we do 250, then here, then here, then here, then here. The entire thing is welded, so we get extra length to be welded. So the width of is The width of slot is maximum of 3 TW or 25. I think this is also a clause that is mentioned in IS 800. Generally, these are you are not expected to remember. These will be provided if required, or generally in competitive exams or exams where you are not provided with a code, you are generally asked straightforward question. These specific clauses are not asked. So we provide two slots of width 25 So the total length now is so this is 280. This is the 280 and 280 we have already got, and this 250 also stays, but we get four extra lengths here. So the 4L plus this, like this additional has this additional length has to be made up by the 4L. So divide this by 4 and we get 80, and 80.39, since it's greater than 80, we always have to approximate on the safer side. So we increase it to 85 and 82 also, you could say. We generally round it up to a 5 or a 10 round figure. You cannot, even if it is 80.39, you have to keep in mind that this is not the usual mathematical rounding. 80.39 in mathematics, we will round it down to 80 millimeter, but in civil engineering, in design, you always have to round it up on the safer side. So if the length is required is more than 80, I have to give it more than 80, so I make it 85, 90, something like that. So I'm going to provide a slot length of 85 So now I have 280 here, 280 here, 85, 85, 85, 85. I have 4 into 85, and this 250 is here because this plus this plus this plus this plus this, the entire thing will come up to 250. This is a circular steel pipe of diameter 110 mm and 8 mm thickness, which is required to be shop welded to a 14 mm thick plate. The pipe carries a vertical factored load of 4.2 kilonewton at a distance 1.2 meter from the welded joint, and the factored twist of 1.4 kilonewton meter. So twist is torsion. Okay, this will be a little complicated. I don't think this problem is important because it is very specific, and it has some solid mechanics aspects to it. I don't think this would be asked generally in the design of welds. Okay, so that is weld design is a quite a short topic. You just need to know the strength expressions for butt weld and fillet weld, and you can design it very pretty straightforward. Are there any questions?
Means size of weight. Please discuss size of weight.
Hmm.
Size of weight. How to arrive size of weight as 5 mm.
Oh, this is an assumption. This is just an assumption because all design has to start with an assumption. Like when you designed RCC structures in a beam, we used to say na that the let the dimension of the beam be 300 by 400. Then we would find out the strength of that beam in bending in shear, and then I would see that whether it is greater than what bending and shear I am expecting, the maximum bending or shear expected in the structure. Then I'm going to say that okay, this dimension is fine. Otherwise, I would increase the dimension and check again. So this is an assumption. Now, of course, you cannot assume a 50 or something ridiculous. There has to be some idea that what is the general range of the dimension. But you could also start with 4 or 7 All you have to do is, the that thing is, design does not have a single answer. One person can design it with 5 and put slot wells. Another person might design it with 8 and see that there is no slot well required. This is enough. So both the answers are correct. Is that all right?
But means it is clear. It is in total provision table number 21.
Okay.
Thickness of thicker part, that is minimum size of weld is 3 millimeter, and 10 to 20 millimeter thicker part, it is 5 millimeter.
Okay, let me see.
Table 21, clause number 10.5.2.3, it has been mentioned that thickness of thicker part. Here the plate thickness is someone and the gusset plate thickness is someone. So from this
Okay, just one second.
10 to 20 is 5
Which
mm.
which clause did
Table
you?
number 21. Table number 21. Clause number 10.5.2.3.
Oh, okay. This is 216 again. Okay, this.
Yes,
Minimum
yes,
size of first run of a single fillet weld. Thickness of
yes.
thicker part.
Thicker part. When the thickness is up to 10 millimeter,
Hmm.
minimum size is 3 millimeter.
Yes.
And from 10 to 20, it is 5 millimeter. So it is here gusset plate thickness is how much, sir? Here 10 millimeter gusset plate thickness.
Yes.
The wave thickness is 7,
7.1.
7.1. So
So the
the
minimum.
thicker part is 10 millimeter. So 10
Yes.
to 20 is 5 millimeter.
Yes. So this is the minimum size, but
For,
it is.
for that reason, size of the wheel has been taken here as 5 mm, most
Yes, but
probably.
but while that is a minimum dimension, even if you took 6 mm or 7 mm and tried, it would be fine. The minimum
Okay.
has to be the minimum provision has to be maintained. But after
Okay.
that, you could assume anything. It is fine to assume the minimum one and try and then see if it is enough or and then ramp it up.
Okay.
Thank you for pointing that out. I had forgotten about this table, but yes, it is important here.
Means one more thing,
Yes.
uh, just you please discuss effective length.
Yes.
Effective length has been given overall length plus 2s. This much. Just to discuss one
Yes. Yes.
effect. That
Which
is it.
clause?
Clause number effective length, overall length minus 2s.
One second. Yes, which clause?
Clause number most probably 10.5.3.1.
10.5.
Effective throat thickness and then effective length of fillet, effective overall length minus 2s. S portion is not
Oh, this
clear.
the effective throat thickness
Yes,
of fillet weld shall not be
yes.
less than 3 mm and shall generally not exceed 0.7 T under special circumstances.
This portion not clear. You please discuss
Okay, okay. The effective
that.
throat thickness.
Hmm.
So this. Okay, let's see. Look at the example. So effective throat thickness of weld has to be is point seven into the size, right?
Yes.
So so we have to take the effective throat thickness to be zero point 0.7 zero point 0.7 into the size we will calculate first, and if it is less than 3 mm, then we have to assume it's 3. So if my size was if the size was 4 mm, I multiply it by zero point 0.7 and get 2.8, then we have to assume it is 3, and then I have to carry out the calculation using this ks will be 3. But here I'm taking 5, so zero point 0.7 into 5 is 3.5 anyway, so we can carry out this using 3.5.
Okay.
Yes, Srinivas Balaji.
One more thing means. And design strength of weld.
Yes.
Design strength of weld means stress into area. Stress into area.
Stress into area. Yes. Basically, it is that. There are some other factors involved, but like for shear, we have to calculate a root. We have to put a root 3 in the denominator or the factor of safety, but the basic concept is stress into area. Yes.
Ma'am, will you explain the mode of failures once again, ma'am? That's like
Mm. These.
yes, yes.
Okay,
Only
let's
these are all the mode of failures in the
steel.
uh, steel.
I think it was in this. You do you want this in the context of weld or just in general?
In general,
Okay, so these.
okay. But you listed something else there. That's why I'm asking.
No, I listed bending, local buckling, shear buckling, web crushing and buckling, lateral torsional buckling, and deflection. These seven only I
Okay,
listed. So,
okay, okay,
do you want to discuss any of,
okay, okay, ma'am.
or is it fine?
Uh, no, ma'am. I will check and I will, if I have doubts next time. I will ask.
Okay, okay. Okay, so if there are no questions, I will end the class. We'll see you again next Tuesday.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. You can.
Amis, you please discuss a reduction factor. That is not clear. Beta
Beta.
LW, beta LW,
Okay,
that is
okay.
not clear. You please just clear me. What is the main issue here?
This, right?
Why?
This for long.
Yes,
When the length of the welded joint of a splice or end connection is a in a compression or tension element is greater than 150 T, the design capacity shall be reduced by the factor. So this is a clause that the application is not difficult. The application is very direct. That if it is greater than 150 T, we have to put this beta LW in the denominator. The practical implication, I think it has. I don't know exactly, but I think intuitively it means that if the weld is extremely long, it cannot sustain the, like if it is a short weld, the entire strength is constant at the what we are expecting. But if it is a very long joint, there is a chance of probably certain weak areas. Maybe the welding cannot be done continuously uniformly along the entire length. So there could be some weaknesses, and so we are to be on the conservative side. We are reducing the strength a little bit. I think that seems from the intuition, but I'm not 100% sure why this clause, how to apply it is clear, right?
yes, yes.
Hmm.
Okay, no problem.
Okay.
Miss, you please give us one or more problems on uh, fillet weld and butt weld. Problem along with solution.
I think that that
You have given already two problems has been given, and
yes.
in Damodar sir's note, I have also take one or more problems. But you please give us another such problems
Okay,
with
so
solution.
this book,
Which one?
yes, I'm showing 1 second. This book, SS Bhavikatti, Design of Steel Structures. This book actually has a lot of good examples, and I think you will find the PDF also, and the book
Okay,
just
okay.
costs 350 or something.
I have already told you to give a link or give this book.
Oh, okay. So
I have,
did you?
from the in the initial day, I have
Hmm.
already requested you to send me a link or something else.
Or the PDF form of it?
PDF form. Yes,
Okay, I will try to find the PDF. I will probably be able to download it from somewhere. It just
yes.
costs 350 anywhere. Okay, I'll see if I can find. I will provide it next class. Okay, I have to
Okay,
try to download it from one of the pirated sites. Okay, this book has a lot of proper examples and
okay, okay. No problem.
all. Thank you.
Thank you, Miss. Okay. Next Tuesday we'll take a class. We'll get the class on next Tuesday.
Let me see what the topic is. I think it's eccentric connections. Yes,
Okay.
eccentric connections. Okay, next Tuesday.
Yes.
Okay, then I'll end the class today. Thank you for attending.